Hello friends, hello vinyl community. Time for another video, and today I would say it's a part two. I would like to continue the discussion about live performances by each and every Beatle. The last video that I did, that was the first part. I was talking about George Harrison's songs performed live in the time of the Beatles, and I just showed you a new album which was live in Japan. And yeah, it's a nice, interesting topic, so I wanted to continue. And today I'd like to talk about John Lennon. Well, it's gonna be quite a little bit different video regarding to George Harrison's, because in the case of George Harrison, he made more songs when Beatles broke up. But in the case of John Lennon, it's quite contrary, because he was the dominant in the Beatles. And then Paul McCartney became more dominant, but pretty much they were the same, equal. In the early years, yeah, we can easily say that John Lennon was the dominant in the Beatles. So there is no point discussing his performance live in the Beatles of his songs, because he and McCartney were the major performers. George Harrison and Ringo were one song per performance, only occasionally, but the most songs were sung by John and Paul, so there is no point discussing that. But what I want to discuss, that which Beatles songs John performed after Beatles broke up. So it's quite a contrary to what George Harrison's topic was. So unfortunately, John's solo career was not that long as Paul McCartney's. I wish him all the best, and Ringo Starr's. Wish him all the best. But we have quite some interesting albums by John. So first of all, in September 1969, he recorded this album, which is called Live Piece in Toronto. Then what we know, what came out, one part of this Sometime in New York City album, which was live with Frank Zappa. Then we know what appeared with Elton John in 1974. There was also a short appearance in the Dick Cavett show. He sang one song. And also in 1975 he sang Imagine in one of the shows. And the last album that was released but recorded in 1972, this is the live album by John in 101 show live in New York City. So I'm going to discuss each and every album individually and talk about the Beatles songs that he performed in that albums. So the interesting thing about this live piece in Toronto is that he gathered a small band consisting of Eric Clapton, Klaus Voormann, Alan White, and in the beginning of the show he says that they never performed together, so they're gonna perform the things that they know. It starts with Blue Suede Shoes, Money, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, Cold Turkey, and Give Peace a Chance. I missed out the Air Blues. So this is the only Beatles song that Lennon performed in that show. So this show was 1 or 2 days after he announced privately that he's leaving the Beatles, and he knew that none of the real Beatles would want to perform live, so he got Eric Clapton, Klaus Voormann, and Alan White for the show. And I think that they performed the Air Blues because he performed the Air Blues with Eric Clapton in Rolling Stone's Circus show. So Eric Clapton was familiar with that song, so I think that's why they performed the Air Blues here. So this is only one of the two songs that John performed after the Beatles broke up. Well, 1969 he still was in the Beatles, but he kind of left, and that was only among themselves. It wasn't publicly or officially announced. Yeah, and one more thing I would like to add to this Plastic Ono Band live piece in Toronto, that he performs here Money and Dizzy Miss Lizzy. These are the two Beatles performed songs, but they were covers. So the only Beatles written song by John is the Air Blues. So then, after the Beatles broke up, we have the album which is called Sometime in New York City. But here he doesn't perform any of the Beatles songs, and I have to say that the performance with with Frank Zappa, I don't like it. I have to admit, I don't like this performance, and I don't enjoy it. But what I do want to show also, that this performance by John and Frank Zappa was re-released by Frank Zappa on the album which is called Playground Psychotics. So all the songs which appear here in 1972 on this album, in 90, I don't really remember the year when Frank Zappa released this one, but I think it was released in 1992. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, 1992. So this album contains many live performances by Frank Zappa, and all the performances by Frank Zappa and John Lennon are here in the new mix with the Frank Zappa mix. But still, I don't enjoy it. Then comes the famous Walls and Bridges album, and on that album John Lennon performed with Elton John. And Elton John said, if your song takes number one, you have to perform with me live. So since John Lennon promised him, there was a very interesting show. So this was released as a separate album by Elton John, live album, and he sings here 3 songs. Whatever Gets You Through the Night, that is the song that they performed on Walls and Bridges album, which took number 1. And then Elton John performs 2 songs, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and I Saw Her Standing There. So originally Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was a lead vocal by John, it was primarily written by John, but here Elton John takes the vocals, take the lead vocals, and John Lennon just kind of backing vocals and helps him. So this is not the fully standing song performed by John, I mean he just participated. And the second one is I Saw Her Standing There, which the originally lead vocal was taken by Paul. So quite a surprising choice for John Lennon to sing that song. But once again, Elton John is the lead vocal here, and John Lennon is just participating. So I wouldn't consider these 2 songs as 2 full standing songs performed by John live. Once again, but nice to have at least something. This is the original German pressing in West Germany, and this is the original East German pressing. When Elton John was releasing the album Made in England, he released this limited edition, the 2 CD pack with slipcase. And yeah, the CD number 1, this is a booklet. This is a picture of John and Elton John and John Lennon, the same picture. So this is the limited edition with the same performance and a couple other songs by Elton John. So the next thing that came out that was released officially, this is John Lennon's Live in New York City. And here he does perform one song which is called Come Together. But he kind of, if you hear him talking between the songs, he's kind of angry. He doesn't mention the name Beatles at all when he says when I left the Rolling Stones. So everybody knows that he means the Beatles, but he didn't say the Beatles loud. I think he was quite angry with that, and he didn't want to. He was full. And then when he sang Come Together, he said, we just go back in the past just once. And then he did something like that. I think he said that I don't want to go back there anymore. So I'm kind of full. So and then he said, come on flap top, that's all I know. So these are the words taken from Chuck Berry's song. So the rest of the words he doesn't care. So I think that with this he wanted to show that he doesn't care about Beatles, that he wants to leave and that he wants to get out of it. But this is the second and last song performed by John after the Beatles breakup, which was from the Beatles. So there are 2 songs, Year Blues and Come Together, performed by John live. And what I also wanted to talk about is that the Bangladesh concert, which was made by George Harrison, I know that shortly before the concert they met, and John Lennon was supposed to appear in that concert, but then he cancelled his participation because of Yoko Ono, that wasn't allowed to be on that show, and that was kind of missed, because this would be a very unique concert with three Beatles. That would be even more. But unfortunately, John Lennon left New York and he didn't want to participate because of that. And yeah, but still, he was invited. He agreed. He wanted to go there, but then he had a fight with Yoko and he didn't participate. So this is a short discussion about John's performances of Beatles songs. I mean, he participated in 4 songs. Year Blues, then it was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Come Together, and I Saw Her Standing There. So 2 songs performed with him, 2 songs were performed live by him fully, and 2 songs he participated in Elton John's concert. But still, you can consider 4 songs. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. By the way, I forgot to mention, he performed Come Together twice. In New York, there were 2 shows. There were afternoon show and there was evening show. The one that we have on the album is from the evening show, I believe, and the other performance is on the John Lennon anthology box. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. That was a short discussion about John Lennon's songs performed by him after the Beatles breakup. So the next, I think, would be Ringo Starr, because Paul McCartney I leave for the last, because he is the most difficult one to discuss. He was a major performer in the Beatles of the Beatles songs, and after the Beatles broke up, he is still performing Beatles songs mostly. So yeah, there is nothing much to discuss about him, only that he's fully active. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.